Welcome to Wells Street. I'm your host, Catrice Wells, stockbroker and president of Johnson Wells. I've put together a great investment show with you, our viewers, in mind. To give you insight on the investment world, I'll help you navigate Wall Street and also give you tips to become a successful investor. We'll also have a guest stop by. I first became a stockbroker over 20 years ago, and I'd like to start off our program by giving you a foundation to become a successful investor. I first became a stockbroker over 20 years ago, and today I'd like to start our program off by giving you a foundation to become a successful investor. Now, these are strategies that I've used over the years to help my clients pursue their financial goals. I'd like to focus on 7 of those strategies. So let's get started with strategy number 1. Know where you stand today. You want to know where your money is currently going. You start by calculating what you own, and then you subtract from that what you owe. So if you own a car, calculate the value, and then subtract what you may owe to the bank. This will help you determine your net worth. You want to be aware of basic household expenses, how much you're spending on utilities, such as gas, electric, your phone bill, cable, internet. Sometimes people are really not in touch with their spending habits. So once you've added up all your expenses, subtract that from your income. That will give you the total dollars available for investments or for savings. So to successfully plan for your financial future, again, you need to know where you stand today. This will not only help you to understand your current situation and budget, but it'll also help you to find maybe other ways to reduce debt, and also you may find some spending habits that you may not like. So if you're able to reduce some of your debt, you'll be able to find additional dollars for investments. So it's really not how much money you make, but it's how much you're able to save that will really make the difference. So after you know where you're currently standing financially, then you want to go to the next step of preparing your family for any unforeseen situation. Oftentimes when you're in a crisis, it becomes very difficult to think clearly and calmly. So you want to be prepared now. Strategy number 2, be prepared for an emergency. Now, hopefully you'll never have an emergency, but you can't always control what happens to us and our families. We live in a world that's forever changing all around us, so you want to prepare now while you have time to think clearly and calmly. I believe an emergency fund is an important part of every financial plan. This is money that you'd have in an account such as a savings or a money market account at a financial institution that's easily accessed without restrictions or penalties. Most financial advisors recommend that you have 3 to 6 months worth of savings. I personally like to use the formula of calculating your total salary for the year and divide that by 10,000, and that'll give you the number of months that you need to have set aside in savings to cover any expenses. Say you have a $20,000 job. That's probably like a minimum wage job. Those jobs are easy to come by. So if you take 20,000 divided by 10,000, that gives you 2. So you should have 2 months worth of savings if your job is 20,000. But say you get paid about 100,000 a year. Divide that 100,000 by 10,000, and you'd come up with 10 months. So 10 months worth of savings, because a $100,000 job is not as easy to replace as maybe a minimum wage job. Again, this is money that you'd have set aside in an account that's easy to access without restrictions or penalties. You wouldn't want to have it in a CD, because if you're in an emergency situation and the CD is not at maturity, you'd pay a penalty. So again, be prepared for an emergency. Strategy number 3 is reduce or eliminate your debt. Your debt is working against you. You want to be aware of just how much debt you have. It's estimated that over 160 million Americans carry about $890 million worth of consumer credit card debt. Now, if you have a credit card where you're paying 16% and your investment account is earning 9%, then you're still losing 7%. So you want to, again, eliminate or reduce your debt. Strategy number 4, invest for the long term. There are several things you should consider before you begin investing, such as your goal. Are you investing to make a large purchase? Or maybe you are saving to help pay for your children's college expenses. What is your risk tolerance? Everyone has a different level of tolerance for risk. Will you be up late at night worried about how your money is invested? Well, the higher the return potential, then the greater the risk, which we refer to as the risk-reward ratio. For many, stocks are a part of a long-term investment plan to help them reach their goal. And that's because stocks have outperformed all other investments over the long term. If you look at billionaires like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, or even Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook, their wealth is tied to the value of their stock. Oftentimes, investors watch and listen to the market volatility on the news. Today, the market's up 120 points. The next day, the market is down 100 points. If you think about a time period over the last 50 years and think about the turmoil that investors went through, now would you actually recommend that they invested during that time? Time periods such as 9/11, when the Dow Jones dropped really heavy and the market stayed closed for several days. Or more recently, 2008, we saw the Dow Jones Industrial Average drop 800 points. Again, looking back, would you recommend that they invest? What if your family actually invested during the Great Depression? How much generational wealth would you have today? Oftentimes, Warren Buffett is quoted as saying, the best time to invest is when the market is open. And again, that's because stocks have outperformed all other investments over the long term. What is a stock? A stock represents ownership of a corporation. It's also referred to as an equity. It's like having your piece of the pie. You own a part of a corporation. You can also diversify your money with stocks by buying different types of companies. And again, over the long term, stocks have unlimited upside potential. Buying a bond is also a part of a long-term investment plan. So what is a bond? When you purchase a bond, you're actually loaning money to a corporation or government agency with the promise to pay the money back. So you don't actually own the company, but again, you are a lender. So let's say you purchase a $10,000 bond with a 5% coupon and a 10-year maturity date. That means that you give the company $10,000, they'll pay you 5%, sometimes paid either quarterly or semi-annually. 5% coupon equals about $500 if it's a $10,000 investment. And then at the end of the 10-year period, which is the maturity date, you receive the $10,000 that you invested. Now this could help fund a project with a 10-year time frame. Maybe you want to pay for college over the next 10 years. So it could have a maturity date on the day you plan to go to college. I mentioned earlier that when you invest in stocks and bonds, that there is risk. And there are many types of risks that you can incur when investing. So I'll just talk about a few of them. You can have company risk, market risk, economic risk. There's currency risk, inflation risk, and also maybe credit risk. And I'll just briefly explain each type of risk. So when there's company risk, that's based on the potential that you could lose money due to mismanagement by the executives of the company. Market risk is the risk of loss of your investment based on the fluctuations of stock prices from day to day. Economic risk would be the risk that domestic and foreign policies could cause a loss of investments. And then you have credit risk. That's the possibility that the company that you purchased the bond from could default on the interest or the principal payment. Inflation risk is the risk that the money that you have today may not be able to purchase the same amount of goods and services in the future. Currency risk is the risk that the exchange rate for foreign money may possibly decline. So if you're planning on retiring and traveling the world, this may be a risk that you could be concerned about. Now there are many ways to reduce risk, and one of the best ways is through diversification, which means don't put all your eggs in one basket. Now, diversification doesn't guarantee a better performance, nor does it protect against investment loss. But it will help you to, again, minimize or reduce your risk. An instant way to diversify is by purchasing a mutual fund. So what is a mutual fund? A mutual fund is a collection of stocks, bonds, and money market securities, owned by several different investors. It's managed by an investment company. There's an investment team that basically spends the bulk of their time talking to various companies to determine if their stock would be a good fit for the fund. The Investment Company Act of 1940 regulates just how much money a mutual fund company can put into one particular stock, and that helps to reduce the risk of one company causing drastic losses to the value of your mutual fund. Now, there are many benefits to owning a mutual fund. It's managed by an investment company, and they have a professional team that spends the bulk of their time researching to find the best stocks to add to the portfolio. So they don't spend time actually talking to clients, but again, they're making the day-to-day buy and sell decisions for the stocks inside the fund. Now, the Investment Company Act of 1940 regulates just how much money a company can actually invest in one stock. So this minimizes the risk of one particular company maybe going bankrupt and causing a substantial loss in your fund. So the benefits of a mutual fund is professional management. You have diversification, that's a benefit. Also, low initial investment to get started. Some mutual fund companies allow as little as $500 to get started. Let's move on to strategy number 5, dollar cost average. Dollar cost averaging is a simple investment concept of investing a consistent amount of money on a regular basis, usually monthly. Doing this will allow you to buy less shares when prices are high and more shares when prices are low, which is the goal of many investors. This technique may lower the average price you paid for an investment and also lower the risk of buying at the wrong time. Let's look at a graph on how dollar cost averaging actually works. Let's look at an illustration of how dollar cost averaging works. You would invest $100 a month for 4 months straight. Each month putting in $100, the price of the stock would fluctuate. The first month, the price is $10. That allows you to buy 10 shares. The next month is $20. You're able to purchase 5 shares. Then the next 2 months, the price goes up to $25. Then you're able to purchase 4 shares. So if you look at the average share cost, divide the $400 that you invested by 23, that gives you $17.30 as your average cost. Now, if you look at the average share price, that would be the $80 divided by 4, that would give you $20. So, dollar cost averaging may allow you to invest at a lower price. So, buy low, sell high is the best way we know how to accumulate wealth over time, which is why dollar cost averaging should be a serious consideration for a long-term investment plan. Strategy number 6, contribute the maximum amount to your retirement plans. You know, Americans are living longer. The average male is projected to live to the age of 76, the average female to the age of 81. And then you hear more often of people living past the age of 100. A key financial concern for Americans is making sure they have enough money to live comfortably during retirement. We're also retiring younger, and traditional pensions are fading, and Social Security probably would not be enough. So what should you do considering all of this? You should pay yourself first in the form of a retirement plan contribution. That way you can ensure that your most important financial goal receives the attention that it deserves. Now, many retirement plans offer the discipline, provide the discipline to do this by offering to take the money directly out of your paycheck, which also can give you a tax benefit. Some companies actually offer to match your contribution. So if you work for a company that offers this benefit, you should take advantage of that because a company match is like free money. I mentioned the tax benefits of contributing to a retirement plan. Let's look at a graph to see the difference that it can make in your overall return. Let's say you're in a 40% tax bracket and you contribute $500 on a monthly basis using our dollar cost averaging strategy that we mentioned earlier. Let's assume you have an 8% return. It's a conservative return. And then over a 30-year period, let's see how much money you'd have. $401,000. That's assuming that, again, you're in the 40% tax bracket, paying taxes each year on your investment return. Well, let's say you're only in the 20% tax bracket. Again, investing $500 a month over a 30-year period,